Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Experience Matters with my special guest today, Camila Ferreira. Welcome to the show. It is a pleasure to have you. I let you introduce yourself because we have a fantastic conversation lined up. Camila, thanks for joining.
Okay, thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to be part of your show and share with your audience all of the conversations we have been having kind of offline.
Mhm.
A little bit about myself. I have more than 20 years of experience in corporate leading organizations all over the place, from Latin America to Europe and the US. And more recently, I started my own business called Rise Up, where I help companies and leaders transforming customer experience into revenue.
Transforming customer experience into revenue. Now, that is the subject matter for today. And I'm excited. We probably won't have enough time to cover everything that we'd love to, but that's the exciting part of what we do. I have an agenda. There's a few questions I'm going to go over, and our conversation will evolve. And very likely, as it's happened in the past, we'll run out of time. But that's another opportunity to bring us back, bring our audience back, and have our audience engage with us throughout, whether it's live, I call it team live and team replay. There's been good participation on both teams. It's a balance in terms of who shows up and who takes the lead. So I am grateful for everyone who shows up and engages. My name is Americo DaCosta. I am a customer experience and personal brand strategist, and I help professionals as well as businesses be seen, heard, and remembered through customer experience strategies. And no different. I may not call it, I may not type it out, but I too appreciate and enjoy and help in helping bring in revenue through a delightful customer experience. So, no further ado, I was going to bring up my slide, but people already know who I am. So we have David, who's joined us from Dallas. David, welcome to the show. David is a fantastic and loyal listener. He loves our content, loves the subject matter, and if you are joining us throughout the show, I will try to pause to answer questions. If I miss any questions that are coming through the live thread, rest assured, I will circle back and make sure that we get those answered for you. All right. So why don't we jump right into it? Customer experience and turning it into revenue. And so often, and you and I have seen it, and many others have seen it, where we fail as CX leaders, CX practitioners, CX advocates to we have a tendency of getting overlooked, and for whatever reason our partners in sales and customer success, they take a front seat, and sometimes it's different verticals. Why don't we jump into and kick off the conversation with, why do you think that we get overlooked?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And I do think that the pain you and I have gone through is shared by some other CX leaders. My understanding in America is that first, many of the current CX leaders came from CS, from customer support, that over time has evolved and has not became, because CX and CS are very different, but they came from CS and they continue speaking the customer support language. That's one of the main reasons I have observed why people feel overlooked. They have a lot of information. They are the true frontliners. I don't think that any other department across organization has more contact with clients than customer support. So they do know customer pains. They do know what customers like and don't. However, by keep speaking the customer support language, such as the regular metrics, average handle time, our CSAT, our NPS, those things are definitely important, but it's a language of customer support. However, in order to get their ideas approved or their projects approved, what they need to do is to speak the boardroom language, which is different. Boardroom, they are concerned about growth, about efficiency. And that's where I think that People feel overlooked and feel behind because whenever they try to explain their ideas, they are using the different language. To bring this to kind of a common or regular life, think of the following. I am here, I live here in the US, but as you can see by my accent, I was not born here in the US. I am from Brazil. I do know people in the US that do not speak English. They keep speaking their home country language. Can they live here? For sure. However, their scope is going to be very much limited because they only speak their home country language. Same thing with CS. Can you keep speaking the CS language? For sure. But your scope is going to be limited.
Fantastic. You you said some great things that completely resonate with not only myself, but I'm sure anyone who's going to be listening or is currently listening. And let me tell you, it becomes difficult because I so many times I was earmarked as America the survey guy, and that's the furthest thing. you know, I try to convince leadership in the organizations that I've supported. It's like CX is more than just CSAT. It's more than surveys. It's more than how likely are you to recommend. Stop. In fact, I encourage you to stop the surveys, or at least the frequency in which you're sending them out. I've seen instances where surveys are being proactively sent out when nothing's done for that customer. You hover around a website, you're at the awareness stage trying to learn a little more about the organization, about the products, the services, and you haven't made a decision yet. But because you've landed on their landing page, you'll get prompted, "Hey, how's your experience so far?" It's like, well, you haven't done anything. I'm just right? I'm just looking. It's like-
Yeah.
and that grinds my gears like nothing else, right? When you
Absolutely. And
survey,
moreover, sometimes you do answer that survey, but you never get a feedback.
yeah,
What
that's
do
right.
they do with the time you as a customer have invested in order to either provide you of information or provide any feedback? Right. So I say only ask for information when you are sure you can do something with that piece of information you are getting.
And many times, I also see that the data is being used, the information is being collected, but assumptions are being made. And the example I have, and sometimes it's a hit and sometimes it's a miss. When you take a look at how we consume content, how we consume entertainment, consider Netflix or live streaming.
Mhm.
Uh, I will immerse myself in some form of entertainment, and I'll get recommended, "Hey, here's a show we think you like." And you see that happening in websites and commerce. "Hey, here's a product we think you'd like based on your viewing history." So the eyes and the ears, that they're watching us, they're listening, and collecting our behaviors as consumers. But sometimes they don't get it right,
Oh,
and many times we share with them, "Hey, here's what I'd like to see. Here's what I'd like to see done differently," and then that just falls on deaf ears, and no one does anything
yeah.
because
It's
of what you just touched on. It's the customer service language. All
Yes,
right.
absolutely. Yes. And it's interesting and kind of funny because yesterday I got a text message from a dealership asking me to schedule my next the maintenance right appointment. And I sold the car to that dealership 3 months ago. And I'm
Yes,
like, why are you texting me? So literally, there is an automation. For some reason, I'm not sure if their systems were updated with what I did with that I sold my car to them, by the way, and they keep kind of a messaging me. So in that, instead of creating a loyalty and trust with me, they're actually breaking it. Because as a client experience leader, I'm like, you were doing this wrong. Sorry, but that's not how you engage with your customers.
or former customers, or anyone for that
Right?
matter. I remember that piece. I engaged in it, and I so often try to bring in different verticals and try to create a level of imagery and a level of importance. We've come from environments where we see verticals and silos, so disconnected. Everyone's doing a great job within their confines and within their accountabilities and within their scope. But the minute you try to bring it all together, uh, the onboarding team misses something, the IT misses something, and it's not that they're doing anything wrong. They're all doing what they're accountable for, but it never connects.
Absolutely.
And your example was a perfect example. And a few weeks ago, I had Paige Hansen, who's a cybersecurity specialist, and we had this very conversation around the customer experience and the vulnerabilities that exist when there's whether it's a cyber attack or just moments like the one you experienced yesterday where your information is still floating around despite you owning or having a connection to the product that they're soliciting a message to you,
Absolutely.
right?
And it's very interesting, Americo, because again, whoever triggered that message or whoever is in charge of um, triggering that message has responsibility, right? So someone asked this person to create an automation, the automation is in place, but it doesn't mean accountability. And CX is all about accountability. So, what you were kind of framing in terms of every single department being responsible for their duties does not make this a good CX, because CX is actually the ecosystem that will connect the different points, the different departments in the best way for customers and companies. It's not one or the other.
That's right. And you know what? We see it so often. And another one of the examples I have that'll segue nicely into our next question is how, for instance, we take big box retailers, and as a consumer, I can go online, I can do my research, understand the product, read the product reviews, read the organization reviews. I can see if an item is in stock, if it's available to ship online, or if it's available to pick up in store or curbside. So all these moving parts come together. And how often do we get to a location, you've placed an order, you go to pick it up and it doesn't show up, or
Oh,
they don't have it in stock, and that really, I'm sure it grinds your gears as much as it grinds mine. But it let's talk about, you know, or let's evolve this question into, or this conversation on how to actually turn CX initiatives like this into business results. So,
yeah,
despite our best efforts, we have all these pieces of technology that allow us to immerse ourselves in an experience to better understand a product, better understand a service, to better understand an organization. But sometimes there's disconnections. So let's talk about the initiatives that are required to
absolutely.
drive business results.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would share with your audience some steps that have been successful for me, which is first of all, for every CX leader, we got to understand the P&L. It's imperative. I'm sorry. Even if you don't like finance, for you to speak the boardroom language, you must understand the P&L, and you don't need to overcomplicate it. That's the other thing. So once we talk about P&L, we are talking about three main lines. One is top line, so revenue. Second one is efficiency, costs and expenses. And three, profitability, which is the result of the other two. You have to start from there, because the next step is to understand the organization that you are working for. What is the organizational goal? It can be growth, it can be revenue, it can be efficiency, it can be profitability. But if you do not know what is the North Star, what is company's goal, then most likely, again, you're going to be speaking, you're going to be talking a different language. But let's kind of talk about top line here, because I am very specialized in turning customer experience into revenue. Once you understand that the company is looking for more to improve or to grow the top line, you have two different ways. And that's why understanding P&L is so important. You either acquire more clients, more customers, that 99% falls under sales responsibility, or you can retain or increase the lifetime of the existing customers. And that's when CX comes to place. Because while you have your sales department looking for acquiring new customers, you can nurture the existing ones. How do we do that? So give me a real example, because let's go to the ground, right? To the operations. Let's assume that you lead a support team. Assuming that, as I said before, most of the existing or the current CX leaders come from CS. You have a support team and you are improving, you are working to improve the experience your customers have with your support team. Most likely you were sending a CSAT at the end of the interaction, right? So this is the this is what most people do. What you can do with that? This is the tip of the iceberg. Because you are offering such a good experience, whenever a customer experiences failure, because this is support, right? Nobody calls or nobody contacts support just to for greetings. No, they are contacting support because something failed. If you are able to transform this failure into a good and successful experience, then you can ask this customer to refer your brand. And we know that whenever you refer a brand, whenever you refer a company, chances are way higher, 5 times higher of conversion. So instead of just asking for, oh, satisfaction with this interaction, keep doing this. But whenever it's your customer is satisfied with how you kind of take him or her from a failure to a success, ask for a referral. Why I'm saying this, in my previous employer, that's exactly what I did. So the company launched a referral program. They were kind of struggling to have sales and other departments to bring this to life. And that's exactly what I did with support. So I turned something that was supposed to be limited to be administrative into a sales machine, because because our support was offering such a great experience, we became the largest referral channel for that particular company. That's one example. It's about kind of a going beyond. So we got to understand, first of all, the lines of the P&L and the breakdowns of those lines. Then the second thing is you got to understand what is the mission and the goal of the company we're working for. And once you do, you work backwards from your department on how to turn that particular experience that you were constantly looking for improving into financials.
Excellent. Now, as you're explaining and discussing this, there's so many things kind of just spinning in my head that I'd like to add and maybe collect your thoughts and sentiment on everything that you are suggesting, or the examples that you're sharing. They resonate. And how often do I think to myself, like, this is great in Q1 and Q2, but how often have we seen people taking leaders, decision makers in the C-suite taking a step back? All right, we're in the home stretch, end of Q3, Q4, all hands on deck, and you forget about your CX initiatives because you got to hit revenue. How important is it to keep balance throughout all 4 quarters?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. And I can give you another example. Once you analyze your customer lifetime, how long on average customers are staying with you? And then you can kind of also bring to the table client or customer segmentation. They are contacting you in your support. What else can you offer them to stay longer? So, once again, the starting point is improving the administrative or the tactical experience. Everything starts from there, but it does not need to end there. And that's the
Right.
difference. Because you are working so hard to improve that experience that it starts from a failure, turn that into revenue. Oh, I can see that this customer or this kind of a group of customers, depending on your segmentation, stay with the organization, with this company for 2 years. Fantastic. What would take them, what would help them to stay 2.5 years? You improved by 25%. All doors will be open for you. at the same time. And why? Because as you correctly said, so you will start the year kind of playing around and
Mhm.
see how things go. But at some point in time, either the CEO or the CFO will pull the brakes and say, you know what? All hands on deck. We need to deliver top line, efficiency, or profitability, or any combination of those three. So if you are ahead of the game, you will start in Q1 giving them or bringing to the table something that I assure you all they haven't considered coming from support.
Yeah. And, when it comes to customer lifetime value, I come from the financial services industry. So banking, insurance, and credit. And just like the financial service industry, other industries share seasonality. And you
Yes.
think of customer lifetime value, you should always understand what's coming up. And for me, I always used to lead with February trade shows. For me, that was the kickoff to the sales year. People go shopping for it's cottage and boat season, it's snowmobile season. So the seasonality of the trade shows would typically kick off the customer awareness, and the buying cycle would begin after that. So it's really about, you want to build and nurture that customer life cycle. Have your team, have your strategy in place. You know what's coming 6 months down the road. Retailers are
Yes.
great. They know what holidays they plan according to their holidays. We're in April, but somewhere in some boardroom, someone's already talking Christmas, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
And moreover, Americo, think of the following. We are constantly collecting data nowadays. We have so much data. And with customer segmentation, what can you do? And now with AI, even easier, right? Because you can kind of get all this data, work with AI, and you're going to have faster insights. So you know that depending on the steps your customer takes, what is the likelihood of what this customer will do next? You have it. You may not
Absolutely.
leverage, you may not use it, but companies, they do have it. So, like you said, for the seasonality, so some companies are already discussing Christmas. You could be discussing, and moreover, you could be getting ahead of your customers because you know what is the likelihood of your customer next steps. And there is nothing better from a customer standpoint that whenever you think you have a problem or whenever you think you're going to have to solve something, it's already solved for you.
Yeah.
That's how you turn customer experience into revenue. You have those data points, but if you keep discussing handle time, uh, I don't know, CSAT and NPS, again, NPS, okay, oh, you have a very high NPS, but are your customers actually referring you? Because what NPS asks is the likelihood of a referring. Turn that into action.
Yeah, absolutely. Turning it into action, I think, is one of the biggest obstacles from some of the organizations and people that I work with. Uh, Mapping exercises that I'll conduct. Sometimes people will nod their heads. Yeah, no, we're aligned. We understand that is creating friction between our customers. We understand that is a pain point, but you got to take it beyond understanding and agreeing that it's frustrating your customers,
Yeah,
right? And stop making
absolutely.
it transactional. You
Oh,
gotta customer experience. You and I both know, and we'll advocate. It's an emotional connection that you're making with your customers, and NPS
absolutely.
is a number. It's a key performance indicator. It drives zero emotion. In fact, if someone recommends or asks me how likely am I to recommend when they haven't done anything for me, like you got to time it as well. You got to earn those metric related questions.
Yeah,
Don't you want customers to judge you at the right time at the right moment. Don't don't dictate your key performance indicators based on your business needs. You got to put your customers first. And David says it best: clients, not projects. Or and so
yeah.
you can evolve. It's clients, not widgets. It's clients, not handle time. Uh,
And I would say it's client because we are living in the moment of personalization. So, what works for you may not work for me. And with data and AI, we can be way more personal. And I think something you just mentioned is so true. Some leaders are way more concerned about metrics than connection. And that's why they chase so much the response rate of the CSAT, the response rate of the NPS, but they do not care of what clients and customers are actually saying. And once you have it, imagine the following. You as a CEO, as a C-level leader, and you have your client experience or your client support leader coming to you and say, hey, our CSAT is down by 3 points. Like, I have something more important to work on, right? But imagine the same person knocks your door and say, hey, you know what? I have identified that this new product release is driving friction and making us kind of increase churn by this percent. If we fix, we can get this back by X%. It's exactly the same thing. The only difference is the language you are using. You are speaking the boardroom language and you are connecting and you are feeling the C-level pain, right? And kind of offering a solution.
yeah. So yeah, you're now bringing real life examples, and they're front of mind. How often I've had, and I'm sure you have similar examples. Our marketing partners are working on a campaign, go to market, new launch, new product, new service, or enhanced service, and but they don't tell anyone. And then handle time goes through the roof, wait times starts to tank, and it takes weeks before someone realizes, all right, our CSAT is is dipping. Why? Customers are saying, hey, it's taking longer to get the help and support that it once did, and no one's connecting the pieces. Like, oh my god, why did we not know about this campaign? We should have planned accordingly. We should have scheduled our staffing and our headcount accordingly. We anticipated additional calls coming into our funnel. Why weren't we prepared? And sometimes I hate to say it, but it is a reality. We fabricate, or we're put in a position to fabricate a CSAT, a number, and kind of turn our backs to the behaviors. And I will forever advocate focus on the behavior, coach to the behavior, and the numbers just fall into place. Right?
Absolutely. No, I can't agree more with you. And that's why that's the main difference between CS and CX. CS is it's a department like marketing, like sales, like finance. CX is the ecosystem that drives and empower companies to be more successful. That's the significant difference between the two. And if you position yourself as a CX leader speaking the CS language, you're going to be overlooked because you're not doing what is supposed to be done, which is empowering and connecting the different kind of a points, data points, and consider a department as a data point in this kind of a merchant journey. You're
Mm-hmm.
not connecting those data points to be successful. And the least or the worst that can happen is that you imagine yourself as a frontliner getting to know about a marketing campaign through your customer. This is the worst.
But it
And it
happens.
happens.
Yeah. It's like, hey, I'd like to know more about this product. So, I'm sorry, what product is that?
Yeah. Which campaign? Oh, the one that I received by email. Oh, really?
Yes, that it's
And then in
personalized to
that
the customer, but
yes, in
the
that
organization.
situation you just mentioned, what's going to happen with the CS leader? He's going to get frustrated because average handle time, that is his responsibility, will go up. And conversations will be around average handle time. What is the kind of the concern from the CEO? Revenue. You're not going to have a seat at the table, period.
Oh man, this is a great conversation, and bringing back some really great good memories, and not so good memories, but memories that we've had to
Reality.
live, and yeah, absolutely, and reality. Now, we talk about CS, and my biggest fear, although I've adapted and I've adopted AI, um, AI for some is replacing more and more the CS side of it. You through automation, um, AI is able to help customers who are willing to be self-enabled to self-serve. And my biggest fear is that AI, despite being a tool that we should all lean into to optimize our operations, uh, that CX will be forgotten even further because we will orchestrate and define here's what CX is going to look like. It will be automation. Customers will have to conform to AI being the CX.
Yeah.
And
Let me let me bring an example from the industry you came from, the finance industry, right? You came from banks. It was not a long ago. We used to go to the banks to withdraw money with the through at the cashier.
mhm,
It was not a long ago, right? Now we have ATMs and we have drive-through. Are the banks still around?
absolutely. Yeah.
What happened? They repurposed. So something that in the past used to be their main responsibility, right? It was very tactical, and we realized that everything that is tactical can be automated, which is withdrawing money. Then you as a customer, you no longer go to the cashier to withdraw money. You repurpose the interactions that you have with the bank manager. Maybe you discuss investments, maybe you discuss a loan, things that actually still require a human interaction. That's my view of AI. And as I was saying before, I think that if we are able, we as humans, we are able to best leverage the combination of data and AI, we're going to get such a level of personalization of every single customer that we can use in our favor to engage with those customers and have more value added conversations.
Yeah.
I do think that some activities that are done today, like withdrawing money in the past, will be completely eliminated, right? But it's not only because of AI, all of this evolution, this technology evolution that we are living. But I don't see, at least in the short and medium term, replacing the in person relationship. What I think will happen though is that whoever does not start learning and leveraging AI will feel behind for sure. Like today in my life as a solopreneur, I use a lot of AI. In the past, I don't know, I used to have a designer doing my presentations. Today, I have an AI. So that particular task is not only executed by a human just because to the stage of my life, I feel comfortable with what AI is delivering. But my work, my job is still kind of going on stage and sharing my knowledge. And this AI cannot replace because it's my experience, right?
Yeah.
So again, it's how you leverage. Some roles will definitely will no longer exist, like the cashiers in the past or the main responsibilities of the cashiers in the past. They are still there,
Oh,
but
please
with different
don't even get me
responsibilities.
started. The self checkouts, I I know it drives a lot of efficiency, and I know there's a lot of people who love it. But that whole self checkouts, like when did I start working here? You want me to buy your products? I can pay for my product. Now I got to ring them up and bag them myself. That's a whole other conversation.
But
uh,
when you go to the grocery, they have two options.
yeah, they do. But our big friends, and I know we shouldn't be name calling, but I know that our friends at Walmart, they're testing out unst- unstaffed cashiers.
Yeah.
There's the the Walmart by my place is
Mhm.
fully self checkout.
Okay, but America, what if let's not giving names, right? But we know that those stores are not the best, the most organized stores. And we know that we struggle with customer support. Whenever you need something, it's hard to find someone. What if they do have the self checkout, but you have a lot more assistant on the floor?
Yeah, and that's what they have. Yeah, so there's a trade-off. There's a balance, and I get it. And if you're trying to compare different channels, you know, what's different if I go on and order something online from any merchant and have it paid for and delivered to my front door, and I pick it up and unpackage it? How is that any different than me walking into bricks and mortar, picking out what I want to buy, bringing it home, and unpackaging it? So there's, you know, I can argue both sides and
Yeah,
appreciate both
absolutely.
sides, and there's value in both sides. But back to
Absolutely.
your
And I think that this is where we are heading to this personalization. Because as I said before, what might kind of meet my needs and expectations might not meet yours.
That's right.
If we are able to use data and leverage data with AI, we are going to reach such a certain level of personalization where the experience will win.
And let's not forget, isn't that the premise of experiences, to be able to, like we talk about when omni-channel and multi-channel was, the words that everyone was
Yes.
using. We don't hear about it as much, but that's what it was all about, giving customers choice on how they want to consume content, how they want to consume
Yeah.
and be part of their purchase experience,
Yeah,
right?
online
And give
shopping, Americo. It was not
oh,
a long ago that we
it,
were discussing online shopping. Of course, that the pandemic fast forward that adoption, but I still remember life before pandemic, and I had the opportunity to lead Uber Eats during the pandemic, and how much we grew during that time. Because before you used to order pizza online, period. During the pandemic, you start ordering absolutely everything. I know that we diversified so much in such a short period of time, not only bringing different restaurants that under normal circumstances would never ever kind of joined Uber Eats, but that was the option, as well as grocery, flowers, everything you can think of, right?
yeah.
And why? Because of course we were living in a specific and outstanding situation. But even after leaving the pandemic, some people still do everything online.
Yeah, and you know what? It's generational thinking.
Yes.
Cash, you touched on it. There will be a time where cash, you know, well, isn't necessary. It isn't necessary today. We can transact without physical bills being exchanged. Everything is electronic.
Yes.
And you touch on your banking experience. Hey, I remember when telephone banking. I was a branch teller. That was my first job. And when they launched telephone banking, it's like, oh my goodness, we're going to lose our jobs. They're going to close branches. Everyone's just going to be able to pick up the phone and pay their bills. And what's happened? What's the evolution of banking? To your point, you not only have your ATMs, you don't only have your telephone banking, but now there's online banking. There's right there's you can drive through a bank, you can walk into a bank, or you can sit in the comfort of your own home and do your banking. And
Yeah,
everyone has adopted and adapted the different ways of doing it. And that's part of the customer life cycle and the whole customer experience evolution and ecosystem. It's trying to give
absolutely.
customers choice and giving them options that makes things easier for them. I know
Absolutely.
Leah Garcia, who's joining us from the West Coast. Leah has chimed in and suggested, AI, don't panic. It's time to pivot. Jobs are going to go away. Just, hey, look at the Industrial Revolution. Jobs were lost, but people adapted and adopted. And,
Yes.
right? And they
The other
learned.
day I was listening a podcast, and they were discussing some sort of AI impact. And the guest presented some data about farmers. 100 years ago, the US used to have, I don't know, their workforce was 95 or something along those lines percentage of farmers. But then technology came in, new jobs were created. As of today, the percentage of the active workforce that is dedicated to farms has reduced significantly. If I'm not mistaken, the number is around kind of a 5 to 10%. Look at this. But we still have created so many new job opportunities that back then did not make sense, right? The jobs that we offer today were not part of the scenario that we were living 100 years
True.
ago. And
Absolutely.
that's it. So at the same time that we are killing some jobs, we are also creating new ones. And I think that what we got to do is keep evolving as human beings and learning and keep up with the new things that are going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And a few other great examples. Patrick Howard uh, shares, hey, there are companies today that no longer accept cash, and that's a reality, right?
Yes.
It's uh, it's a decision that they've made, and it probably hasn't hindered their success.
Yeah,
He also
absolutely.
shares he also shares another great example of an industry that has evolved: telehealth. We no longer need to walk in to our clinics, our practitioners to get health advice. We can get that over the phone. We can get that through virtual engagement. So, uh,
Absolutely. You see, so what we are doing is that we are diversifying how we serve clients in order to have a broader scope. So the fact that you have telehealth doesn't mean you need to get rid of clinics. It just means that you do not need to channel absolutely everybody to clinics.
that's right.
I have a passport appointment for my kids tomorrow, and I was checking kind of a paperwork and how I prepare myself for that. They do not accept cash. Period.
Yeah, and some organizations made that decision for the security of their staff, because how do you move money in a safe
Yeah,
manner, right? And to reduce theft, it happens. Electronic
absolutely,
transfer of funds, there's less likelihood of that happening. Now
absolutely.
we're three quarters into the hour, and as always, we never run out of things to talk about.
What a
and
great conversation.
but I want to circle back to the whole CS and CX and
Mhm.
get your thoughts on why do you think people still think CS is CX?
Yeah. One reason I believe is that, as I said before, most leaders came from CS. Most CX leaders that position themselves in CX came from support. That's one of the reasons. Two, historically, the other leaders or the other departments have seen support as a cost, and it's really tough for them to break this kind of a previous concept and understand that the CX is actually the ecosystem that will drive business growth. So to me, those are the main two things. One is historically, we have always looked at CS and as a call center, as a cost center, where for you to be more successful, you need to trim costs. And then the other thing is the leaders that came from there that are now the majority of the CX leaders keep their this mindset of cost and not go beyond, as the examples I have shared here, on how to start from experience and actually turn that into business growth.
Yeah, so I was in that wheelhouse. I was in that space, and for the longest time, and I was always and continue to be someone who pushes the envelope, tries to think of things logically. Yes, CS is important. It is a cost center, and like myself, many people have found themselves dispensable and have moved on. And now we're solopreneurs and we're trying to build a business and help businesses um, improve their customers' journeys in different ways.
Yeah.
But
I think
when we
that
talk,
one thing that helped me, Americo, and sorry to interrupt you, is
yeah,
that
no,
my background is finance. So my career actually started in finance. For 10 years of my life, the first 10 years of my professional life was in finance. I worked in accounting, reporting, planning, you name it. So that is my foundation. At some point in time, I was like, oh, I want something different. And I transitioned to operations, more specifically into customer experience. However, I came with that financial background. And that's why, to me, the first thing CX leaders should learn is P&L, because then you're going to use, even if you're kind of a leading support, you're going to be able to look at the support opportunities, what your clients are telling you, and transform and translate this into business opportunity. So that's why I believe once I transition into CX, coming with this mindset really helped me. And that's how I was looking for opportunities. More than just managing support, which was something I had to do, was like, okay, so this is kind of the tip of the iceberg. There are way more opportunities by managing or leading CS that I can translate into CX.
Yeah, and I get it. I came from sales. I started in uh, sales, so for me, even in the CS position, uh, I was trained with old school methodologies. You can't just call yourself a customer service professional because you always have to be prepared to sell and solve customers' problems, customers' pain points, and you always have to be nurturing that relationship, listening to cues, listening to what customers are saying, listen to the environment. And when it came to insurance, you'd hear people, you'd hear a baby crying in the background. That was your trigger to have that conversation and build that into the conversation. Is there a life product you want to introduce because you hear that child in the background? Hey, customers wanting to leave. Hey, I'm going somewhere else. I found same coverage for a lower price, and trying to nurture that conversation to keep that customer from leaving. You should always, we were always in that sales mindset,
Mode. Yeah.
right? And stop thinking and stop calling yourself CS, customer service. Stop leaning into the fact that you're good at customer service and you're not a sales professional. Customer service, you got to be selling. If you're not selling the brand, you're selling the reputation. You're always selling something. And
Yes.
even your personal brand, you're selling your personal story. You're controlling the narrative as a CS professional. And anyone who thinks that there's no sales involved, it's the furthest thing from the truth. And that's where I was always able to talk and demonstrate ROI. Yes, I'm in a cost center, but look at how much revenue through, you know, good experience and delivering a good experience. You're going to have to turn a blind eye to my handle time or the my team's handle time, but
Yeah,
look at what you're getting in return. And it's about creating that ROI. And if you
absolutely.
can deliver ROI, and it's P&L. We call it
Oh,
different things. You call it
absolutely,
P&L.
totally.
I call it, right. It all feeds into the ledger, right?
Absolutely. And you know what? I just by listening to you, so people nowadays they fight for attention, right? So we are living in this kind of a fully connected world of social media. Um, they are scrolling, you name it, which social media you prefer, but grabbing people's attention is one of the most challenging things nowadays. Whenever a client contacts support, you have their attention. Once leaders understand that and use that in their favor for business growth, they're going to be way more successful.
Yeah. I will caution you do have their attention, but understand and keep the priorities in the right order.
Oh,
Focus on
absolutely.
focus on why that customer came in. And
Yes,
the minute you give them all the attention and answer their questions, they will be open to listening to something else you might have to discuss or offer. The
totally.
minute
Think,
the minute
think
you
of
make
the
it the minute you make it self-serving, you've lost that customer and they're not going to give you
absolutely.
anything, right?
Think of the following: the customer contact you again. It started from a failure, period. But I'm assuming that you, as a CS leader, you were doing a great job on solving for the client with high quality. Let's assume that for a second. You still have that client's attention, even more now than before, because you fixed something that was broken. As you were saying, that's the time to sell. That's the time to ask for a referral. That's the time to engage. That is the time to extend their lifetime with that organization. Everything starts with a good tactical experience because that's why they come to us. But then you expand to the company, to the business experience, showing them more. Most people stop or disconnect after the tactical experience. And that's why they do not translate, they do not transform client experience into revenue.
Yeah. And you know where I used to find my biggest nuggets of lost revenue? You talk and mention quality. So for a
Mhm.
short period of time, I oversaw a quality program at one of my former employers, and my focus in the contact center as a quality leader, and people thought I was just out to lunch, and I was just looking to get calls listened to. Go to your short calls. Listen to your short calls. If you're listening to the average handle time and those calls that fall inside that average handle time, you're most likely going to hear what you want to hear. But I'm not looking for transactions. I'm not looking for that transactional type of interaction. If there's, if I'm looking for check marks, did you ask XYZ? Did you offer this? Did you? Yes, you're going to hear that. But calls that were under a minute is where most of the revenue was being squandered. Why are customers being blown off? Why are calls taking such a short period of time? And when I opened eyes to the leadership teams, like, hey, you focus on these short calls and you are going to increase your revenue because here's another example. You focus on handle time, wait times. Hey, we got to get our service levels 80/20. I want 80% of my calls answered in 20 seconds. Well, that's what you're going to get. You're going to get customers that are just tossed to the side. I got to get you off the phone. Right.
Yes. Yes.
And
Oh my goodness. What a great example. That's it. You see, speaking CS language does not allow you to deliver a good CX, does not allow you to transform CX into revenue because you are so focused on the metrics just to get your clients out of the phone instead of selling more.
that's right. Okay, I'm going to jump into the comments here. Daniel, happy customer comes back to buy more of your products and service. A happy customer refers others. Absolutely. And that, that happens naturally. And if you worry less about your metrics and focus more about your customers, they will become your biggest marketing asset. They will advocate for you. They will get in front of your brand and the reputation that you've built around your brand and drive to some degree more revenue.
Absolutely.
Right. David, options to your offer options to your customers. How can I serve your needs? Yeah. So open-ended questions. You great, great topics, great comments. I know comments were coming in. They were slow there for a moment, and then they all kind of came in at once. And I may have lost track of some of the questions that came in. I'm going to just take a quick glance. Leah, thank you. Awesome conversation. Always a pleasure. If you're not following Leah, she is a fantastic person to get connected with. Um, she too
Absolutely.
is in the financial service space, and uh, I got to tell you, a year ago, probably over a year ago, I connected with her, and she's got golden nuggets like you've never seen before. So,
Wow.
it,
Definitely reach out.
uh, okay, skimming through. All right. Enough about skimming through. I know there's a lot there, and I will circle back. I promise, as I have in the past. Listen, we're at the top of the hour. I want to give you an opportunity to share with our audience, those here participating in Team Live. How can people get a hold of you? And those listening to the replay, why don't you share a little bit about best way to get a hold of Camila Ferreira?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you very much for the opportunity. I think through LinkedIn, you can find me as Cami Ferreira with double A at the end. Thank you so much for putting this on the screen. I also invite you all to visit my website, which is riseupbycami.com. So there you can see, you can know a lot more about myself, my background, where I came from, the things that I have already done in the world of CX, and also the services that I offer. And as a spoiler for you and for your audience, in a week from now, I'm going to be attending the CCE in Vegas, where I'm launching my book, Long Live CX, where I will educate. I'm going to share everything that I know to help other leaders to be more successful in the realm of CX by transforming, CX into material business growth. So stay in the lookout. I will definitely be posting on LinkedIn, but it's in a week from now. It's going to be available on Amazon, and the name of the book is Long Live CX.
I will look forward to that. Thanks for giving us that heads up. That
Of
is
course.
fantastic. I want to take a moment once again. Thank you for sharing a what I think was a fantastic conversation, and I would welcome you back anytime. And maybe we can do a guest appearance. I also do a live called Storytelling, the Storytelling Journey. Maybe we can bring you back after your book launch, and you can share a little bit about the narrative that goes behind your piece of work.
Absolutely. That
Okay.
will be a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, and looking forward to keep this partnership.
Fantastic. Everyone else, I want to wish a great afternoon, great rest of your day, wherever you're joining us from. Thank you very much. And until next time, have a great day, everyone.